On Friday, Apple convincingly crossed over the $3 trillion market cap with a gap up and really never looking back, closing at 193.97 for the day and convincingly crossing over the average Wall Street target of 185 to 190 and $7 within, surprisingly, Jim Cramer's target of $200. But this is not the first time Apple crossed over the $3 trillion market cap. It actually did so earlier this year in January. This article is coming from CNN Business. Apple is now worth $3 trillion, boosted by Nasdaq's best start in 40 years. Again, Apple crossed over the $3 trillion mark, becoming the first company to do so. However, this is not the first time. Apple did cross the $3 trillion market cap back in January 3rd. However, that was just the intraday market cap. The sky valuation for the tech giants comes on the heels of a risky launch of the Apple Vision Pro earlier this month and a stronger than expected quarterly earnings report in May, even though sales and profits slump. So, the Apple Vision Pro, somewhat risky, right? But someone has to be the first venturing into the VR AR world. First one being Facebook, but it seems Apple's never the first to enter a market. They always end up being the best. All right. Now, some may ask, when was the first time Apple crossed over the $1 trillion market cap? And they actually did so back in 20. Let's go to the monthly time frame. They actually did so back in August of 2018, and that would have been right here. Oops. Let's move that to 2018 when the stock price was at $57. Now, when did they hit the $2 trillion market cap? Well, that was in 2020, and that was August. So that was roughly a 2-year gap, right? So this pullback, right, when helicopter money was taken away and when interest rates started increasing, this pullback delayed Apple from hitting the $3 trillion market cap until Friday's close, right? So that's roughly almost 3 years away. But a Wall Street analyst thinks that Apple's going to hit the $4 trillion market cap sometime in 2026. So we'll just say 3 years from now, right? And that's realistic, right? Being that it went from 1 to 2 in about 2 years, to 3 in about 2.5 years, 3 years. And this Wall Street analyst thinks that it's going to hit $4 trillion in roughly 3 years. So that somewhat makes sense based on the time horizon. But let's get into the video and hear his explanation.
Welcome back to the Watch List. I'm Nicole Petalides. Big day for Apple. $3 trillion valuation for the second time. So as we look at what's going on here and see this rally happening, which is up over 45% on the year, and Dan Ives is with us, Managing Director, Equity Research, Wedbush Securities. Dan, I'll give you the kudos because you've been calling bullish on Apple for the longest time, and here it is at all-time highs today. And you even have a bull case for $4 trillion. Come on, tell us about it.
Yeah, Nicole, I don't think this doesn't stop what I view as sort of just not the bull market intact. When I look at Apple, they're just starting to further tap into their golden install base. So when you look at services, that's a big part of how we got to $3 trillion. And I think right now there's a lot of bears sitting there in hibernation mode that we're calling for 1.5 to 2 trillion, trying to figure out how we got here. I think it's It's about that install base in Cupertino. And I believe that potentially the best is yet to come, as we go into just more and more uptick in services. And then eventually you got an Apple Car coming in 2026, we believe.
Okay. I mean, we did actually, I know Apple Car, right? That's something we've talked about for a long time. We did actually get the headset, the $3,000 headset, right? Or maybe it was more than that, 3,500, but that was really for the pros. But it came out and they did it, and that was to woo developers. So in the meantime, when UBS or all these people come out and they say iPhone sales worries, which is the headline today, UBS warns of soft iPhone sales. I mean, what do you say? Like kaflooey? I mean, we've had this conversation, I feel like 20 times.
Well, I think, look, there's a lot of boy that cried wolf calls out there the last year and a half, right? In terms of Apple. And I think they continue, in my opinion, in terms of, many of the bears, they missed the broader story that's happening. In terms of weighing what I believe is going to be for iPhone 15, you have a mini super cycle playing out. 250 million iPhones haven't been upgraded the last 4+ years. And it's about that services business. Services we think is worth 1.4 trillion. And this right now, this is the appetizer to what ultimately is just going to be, when I look at services, further upticks there, and then AI, that's really going to be what I view as the home run, as we believe they're going to build an AI app store within their ecosystem. I think, Nicole, it ultimately comes down to Cook plays chess, others think he's playing checkers.
That is the oldest saying in the book, and I love it every time you use it, because I know you've been using it in your note and talking about it today, and I was wondering if you were going to use it right now, and I'm glad you did, because this is something different. I mean, the fact that they have so many things under the umbrella and the different revenue streams, like you said, the services is going to bring in, close to $1.5 trillion. You have wearables, you have the upgrade. I mean, do they need to bring out the next great thing? Because a lot of folks have complained that the latest iPhones have not had that wow effect and wooed people to upgrade. Will the 15 have something like that will get everybody to upgrade?
Yeah, Nicole, as you've talked about for many, many years. I mean, they at 500 billion, they said it. At a trillion, they said it. 2 trillion, said it was too expensive. Saying the same thing at 3 trillion. I think ultimately the transformational, the special growth companies like Apple in the trophy case, you can't just look at over the next year. You have to look at ultimately what's driving this broader rally here. And I think this is just the start of more and more penetration to the install base. You look at the chip. I mean, the more and more they're owning their infrastructure in terms of M2 that we see there in terms of the M2 chip, where they're essentially being Intel at their own game. And that's why this is just another trophy case moment for Cook as Cupertino flexes their muscles yet again.
So with this AI app, for example, right, and you have a 220 price target, you obviously think it could go even higher. Things are a little different now than they were even a couple of years ago for Apple, right? It's not just that you're on the Apple bandwagon, but you like what Apple is doing month after month.
Well, I mean, they're building the future. Yeah, I mean, I think a good example, when you think about Vision Pro, most thing about it, 3,500, super expensive, they're not going to sell that many units. That's not the goal. The goal is they're selling to developers. You're going to have thousands and thousands of use cases. That ultimately is just the beginning of the AI app store. And I could argue the AI story hasn't even started to play out in Cupertino from a stock perspective, which is why I think this is a name. I still view this as a bright green light to own.
Yeah, with what they can gather.
All right, so there you have it from Wallstreet Analyst Webb Bush, who has a $220 market cap. Price target. Now, what's interesting is they mentioned the AI App Store. Now, Apple services, which includes Apple TV, Apple Music, Apple Arcade, that was roughly 21 billion that it brought in revenue. And I agree with Webbush that the AI play hasn't even started with Apple. So it's not too late to get in, but don't chase price. Where would be a good opportunity to go in? Well, I got to put a new target up here, right? Let's switch this to 220, and we're going to call this the Webbush target. Webbush target 220. Where would be a good opportunity to go long? All right, so you see the most recent pivot high at 185, which pulled back to the 13 simple moving average. You can see how price impulsed and then pulled back again to the 13 and 26 simple moving average. So it's kind of been just riding this simple moving average from roughly the 152 as it approaches 200. So opportunity to get long would be around this 185, 188 level. So let's do this. We're going to say take that pivot high and the 188 level. So don't chase price. Wait for a pullback to the moving averages, or allow the moving averages to catch up if we have some basing. Again, if your time horizon is years out, wait for that pullback and take it long. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Please like the video.